for this invigorating spearheading discussion in maths चिंतन। तो मैथ्स की चिंता करना हम भारतीयों का स्वभाव बन चुका है, लेकिन चिंता से अधिक आवश्यकता हमें चिंतन की है। और क्यों है इस चिंतन की आवश्यकता, ये हम सब जानते हैं। खासकर से पिछले 2 साल में जो अभी चेंजेस आए हैं, उसके बाद एक बात हमारी सबकी समझ में आ गई है कि परिवर्तन तो संसार का नियम है, लेकिन परिवर्तन के साथ-साथ परिवर्तन की गति भी बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो जो स्पीड ऑफ चेंज है, वो हमें बहुत फास्ट इम्पैक्ट कर रही है और उसके हिसाब से उसके चलते जो है, अब हमें ये सोचना पड़ रहा है कि हमको कितनी जल्दी सीखना है, हमें क्या-क्या सीखना है, हमें कैसे सीखना है, हमें अपने सोचने और काम करने का तरीका कैसे बदलना है। और इस सब का असर, क्योंकि हम सब यहाँ पर मैथमेटिक्स एजुकेटर्स जुड़े हुए हैं, तो इन सब का असर हमारी जो मैथमेटिक्स टीचिंग लर्निंग प्रोसेस है, जो करिकुलम है, उसके ऊपर क्या असर इसका हो सकता है, ये थोड़ा सा सोचने का विषय है। दूसरी चीज ये है कि अभी बहुत फास्ट जो चेंजेस आ रहे हैं, उसमें कहीं ना कहीं टेक्नोलॉजी हर जगह अपना असर छोड़ रही है, उसका इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है और उस इम्पैक्ट के चलते भी बहुत चेंजेस आ रहे हैं। तो भी ये सोचने की जरूरत है कि किस तरह का मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ने की जरूरत है। मैथमेटिक्स का जो नीड है, वो कहीं जो उसकी जरूरतें हैं, वो चेंज तो नहीं हो रही है। तो उस पर्सपेक्टिव में भी आज हम सब बात करेंगे। बट बिफोर वी स्टार्ट द डिस्कशन, लेट मी जस्ट इंट्रोड्यूस आवर एस्टीम्ड educators as conversationalists today. We have with us Dr. M.M. Pant. He is PhD in computational physics along with degree in law, and he had been the Pro Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi National Open University, and he is also the visiting professor at University of Western Ontario, Canada. He has been visiting scientists to research centers in Italy, England, Germany, and Sweden, and has about 50 published papers to his credit. With strong background in physical sciences, including mathematical techniques and computer applications, he initiated many experiments in teaching learning of science and mathematics, as well as the computer education. So we will not be able to find a better person than him to give us the insights into the today's discussions and जो चिंताएं हमारी है. We have with us Professor Indra K. Rana. He is also retired from Department of Mathematics, IIT Mumbai, and has 13 papers, published papers to his credit. Since 2008, he has curated many professional development programs for the teachers, especially the mathematics teachers, and he also created plenty of interactive resources for teachers and students to learn mathematics using puzzles. He created resources on the history of mathematics as well as the contribution of Indians in mathematics, in the field of mathematics, and he used many softwares especially to understand the functions and their behaviors. Along with our two educator panelists, we have another very very enterprising panelist with us, Mr. Nirmal Shah. He is co-founder at Counting Well, and he has range of experiences from IT consultancy to service-oriented architecture to solution architecture to business architecture, and then enterprise architecture, to evaluation of investment opportunities, and so on. So, and also through Counting Well, he has created apps using artificial intelligence for learning of mathematics in a simpler way. We also have with us Dr. Dharam Prakash ji. He's retired professor from NCERT. He's passionate educationist and innovators in mathematics education. So we have lots of
Let
questions.
Me introduce Anita ji. Let me introduce Anita ji. Anita ji, I know since 20 years. She has been a mathematics teacher and a very passionate administrator about mathematics. She has been very passionate and she experimenting whenever an opportunity comes. So Anita ji, you can continue.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, I was going through lots of documents on the net, and these documents, they're talking about the 20 predictions in the next 20 years, the kind of changes are going to come. So there are many such documents which are talking about the changes, but through each document, two things are clear. Number one, that whatever kind of changes are coming, whether it is through the climate change or through the pandemic outbreak or through the changing trends in the business and economics, all this has leading to the disruption of technology. And then technology is again in consequence, again influencing the complete cycle, and some new kind of problems are occurring, and then again some new kind of technology is emerging. So we are dominated by the whole technology era right now. चारों तरफ जहां भी आप देखेंगे, आपको चाहे वो फिनटेक है और चाहे एडटेक है और बहुत सारे एटेक है, तो आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, ब्लॉकचेन, इंटरनेट ऑफ थिंग्स, so many things are coming there. So I'm just curious to understand कि इतना ऑटोमेशन हो चुका है सारे प्रोसेसेस का, इस इतने ऑटोमेशन के बाद में डॉक्टर पंत, आई वुड लाइक टू अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम यू, कितनी रिक्वायरमेंट इस बात की है कि मैथमेटिक्स की अंडरस्टैंडिंग को डेवलप करने की जरूरत है, या कितना मैथमेटिक्स क्लास 5 ऑनवर्ड्स पढ़ाने की जरूरत है? बच्चे आजकल के ये बोल देते हैं कि सब कुछ तो रेडीमेड अवेलेबल है, मुझे काउंटिंग सिर्फ नंबर्स को रिकॉग्नाइज करना सीखना है, अदरवाइज मैं कैलकुलेटर यूज करूंगा तो कैलकुलेशंस हो जाएंगी, कोई ऐप यूज करूंगा तो सारा जो मनी ट्रांजैक्शन है वो हो जाएगा, कोई सॉफ्टवेयर यूज करूंगा तो और किसी ना किसी तरह की प्रॉब्लम जिसको भी फेस कर रहे हैं वो सॉल्व हो जाएगी। तो मैथमेटिक्स की मतलब जरूरत कितनी रह जाएगी आने वाले टाइम में, ये एक चिंता का विषय है। और चिंता का विषय हम मैथमेटिक्स एजुकेटर के लिए इसलिए है कि हमारे बच्चे इसको किन टर्म्स में समझ रहे हैं, वो उसको कैसे अपने हिसाब से कैसे इंटरप्रेट कर रहे हैं सिचुएशंस को। सर
ऑडियो सर अनब्लॉक करें ऑडियो।
हाँ, ये ऑटोमेटिकली आप सब डिफॉल्ट में चुप करा देते हैं लोगों को, ठीक है। एनीवे, सो देखिए, जैसे हम लोग बात कर रहे थे शुरू करने के पहले कि बहुत पहले JN कपूर साहब ने कोशिश करी थी कि उस समय एब्स्ट्रैक्शन की बात सिखाएं, सेट थ्योरी सिखाएं, रिलेशन सिखाएं, वो सिखाएं, और एक बड़ा भारी समूह था जो अपोज कर रहा था। मुझे खुद याद है, मैं जब इलाहाबाद यूनिवर्सिटी में BSc में पढ़ता था, हमारे एक प्रोफेसर थे बनवारी लाल शर्मा, उन्होंने कहा ये सिलेबस की बात तो तुम लोग अपने आप से कर लोगे, गोरख प्रसाद चंद्रिका प्रसाद की किताब पढ़ा के मैं तुम्हें वो पढ़ाऊंगा जो सिलेबस में नहीं है। और पूरा साल उन्होंने हमको ग्रुप थ्योरी ये वो सब पढ़ाया, which helped me in my career later on. So I had known group theory etc. which was not part of our syllabus. because उसका सिलेबस की चीज तो गोरख प्रसाद चंद्रिका प्रसाद पुराने साल के क्वेश्चन पेपर से सीख लोगे। So जो बात इंपॉर्टेंट है, और आपने बहुत सही कहा है कि हम सडनली एक ऐसे टाइम में आए हैं जब हमको फिर से ये सोचना है कि हम गणित क्यों सिखाते हैं। और मैं आपको कुछ दे दूंगा मटेरियल्स जिसको आप करेंगे, और बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग टाइम आ गया है। तो पहली चीज ये थी कि हम गणित को कैलकुलेट करने के लिए सिखाते थे, और मैं आपको एक लिंक भेज दूंगा अभी अभी। एक किताब, बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी है, उसका किताब है, उसका टाइटल है व्हेन कंप्यूटर्स वर ह्यूमन। तो आज हम अगर कंप्यूटर की बात करते हैं तो हम एक मशीन की बात करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं था हमेशा। सन 50 में कंप्यूटर वाज अ डेजिग्नेशन, you would get a promotion, and organization like Jet Propulsion Lab etc. had hundreds of people who were called computers. They were bachelors and masters in mathematics, and they would do lots of calculations for the scientists. अब सिंपल चीज देखिए ना, आज अभी आप देखिए, आपको अगर किसी सर्कल का एरिया निकालना है तो पाई r स्क्वायर होता है, तो पाई की क्या वैल्यू है 22.7, तो अप्रोक्सीमेशन है क्लास 8 के लिए आप कहते हैं, बट एक्चुअली तो पाई एक इन्फिनिट सीरीज है. सो यू नीडेड पीपल टू कैलकुलेट दैट टू द प्रिसिशन दैट यू वांटेड. 3.14159.265 आप जो भी हो. इसी तरीके से बाकी साइन टेबल्स, कॉस्ट टेबल्स सब आपको कैलकुलेट करने थे. तो कंप्यूटर वाज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग. They got replaced around 1950s onwards by a series of computers. और शुरू में जब कंप्यूटर आई मशीन, तो उसको क्रॉस चेक करता था कि जो इंसान कर रहा है वो ठीक है कि नहीं. तो मशीन को क्रॉस चेक इंसान करता था. जो बच्चे आज कह रहे हैं वो सही कह रहे हैं कि अब कैलकुलेट करने की बात नहीं रही. So we do not teach mathematics for people to become human computers. We teach mathematics for something else. That's something else you will understand today's context, because बहुत दिनों पहले हम लोग ज्यादातर ब्रेन के बारे में कुछ जानते नहीं थे. तो आज आपको पता है कि आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, मशीन लर्निंग में सब में क्या होता है. हम ब्रेन, जो भी हमारा मॉडल है, न्यूरल नेटवर्क मॉडल, ये वो, उसको हम ट्रेन करते हैं इन डेटा, and then it is able to see patterns. So whether we learn physics or maths or literature or history, etc., this is all training data. It is not the content itself which is important. It is what we make of the content that is important. ये बहुत important चीज है. So हम बात ये कर रहे हैं कि development of human intelligence and artificial intelligence and a symbiotic relationship between the two is what will take the world forward. जैसे पहले था और हमने देखा है वो जमाना, ह्यूमन इंटेलिजेंस थी और स्लाइड रूल था कैलकुलेशन के लिए. फिर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कैलकुलेटर आया, फिर प्रोग्रामेबल कैलकुलेटर आया, फिर कंप्यूटर आया. तो ये बात समझने की है कि एंड मैथमेटिक्स इज वन ऑफ द इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ दिस. तो कैलकुलेशन सिखाने की जरूरत है. और इसमें एक कॉनरेड वॉल्फ्रम का बहुत अच्छा वीडियो है, टेड टॉक है, आप देखिएगा कॉनरेड वॉल्फ्रम का. लेट अस टीच देम मैथमेटिक्स नॉट कैलकुलेशन. And mathematics, in my view, is a language. In fact, Galileo ने 400 साल पहले कहा था, mathematics is the language in which nature expresses itself. So, idea अब क्या हो गया कि जिसको हम advanced mathematics कहते थे, वो अब हमें स्कूल लेवल में ही समझाने की जरूरत है. और ऐसे समझाने की जरूरत है. मैंने आप लोग किसी के डॉक्यूमेंट में देखा भी, आप लोगों ने एक फ्रेज कहीं यूज किया है, वर्टिकल लर्निंग और व्हाटएवर. सो वर्टिकल एक्सेलरेशन, ये एक फ्रेज यूज किया है एक हमारे इंडियन ओरिजिन के प्रोफेसर ने, शायद आप लोग जानते हो, महेश शर्मा करके. वो कैम्ब्रिज कॉलेज, आई थिंक मैसाचुसेट्स में है, और उनका ये वर्टिकल एक्सेलरेशन कहलाता है. और दूसरा इंग्लिश में जो होता है उसको बर्कशायर मैथ्स कहते हैं. और पूरा एक मैथ्स का मॉडल बनाया है कि कैसे आप एब्स्ट्रैक्शन में लेते जाएं. सो आई थिंक व्हाट वी नीड टू डू इज, एंड आई विल पॉज फॉर अ व्हाइल, कि हम मैथमेटिकल थिंकिंग लोगों को सिखाएं. कैलकुलेटिंग is no longer important because nobody will ask a human being to do the calculation which can be done by a computer. But creating a mathematical understanding is very important because we can progress only with you. और आपके राणा साहब के मैंने पेपर्स देखे, उनके मेजर थ्योरी पे बहुत पेपर्स हैं. सबसे पहले मेजर तो समझाएं. मैथमेटिक्स का सबसे की कॉन्सेप्ट है मेजर. एंड मेजर जो है, आप किसी से पढ़ लीजिए, उसने बीएससी एमएससी मैथ्स का, उससे पूछ लीजिए व्हाट इज मेजर, वो कुछ नहीं बता सकेगा. और लॉर्ड केल्विन ने इसको फिजिक्स में लाते हुए कहा कि फिजिक्स में ही नहीं, इवन डॉक्टर लोग भी बात उसकी करते हैं. लॉर्ड केल्विन ने कहा, ओनली इफ वी कैन मेजर समथिंग कैन वी डू समथिंग अबाउट इट टू इंप्रूव इट. वी कैन नॉट मेजर इट, देयर इज नथिंग दैट कैन बी डन अबाउट इट. सो टू मी, this idea of a measure theory, idea of numbers, idea of prime numbers, idea of random numbers, this conceptual thing is what is very important to develop. And that's why I was reminded of J.N. Kapoor कि उन्होंने बहुत पहले कोशिश करी थी और वो कामयाब नहीं हुई. पर अगर राणा साहब जैसे लोग हैं and ये है, तो I think this is something that we can do, because now what we are saying, we'll use computers as an ally. We are not going to become human computers. And I can go on and on. और मैं अभी अनीता जी आपको वो When Computers Were Human किताब का PDF का लिंक भेजता हूँ और बातें करते हैं. ठीक है. हाँ, तो और लोग करें बात, चर्चा चलती रहे.
हाँ, मैं ये कीथ डेवलिन को मैं पढ़ रही थी, और वो कीथ
Correct.
डेवलिन जो है वो कहीं पर वो ये कहते हैं कि जो मैथ्स करिकुलम 20th सेंचुरी का है, वो हमारे जो एडल्ट्स ने जैसे पढ़ा हुआ है उसके हिसाब से वो 21st सेंचुरी के बच्चों को दे कैन नॉट केटर, दे कैन नॉट टीच देम मैथ्स। लेकिन
Agreed.
समस्या ये है कि हमारा जो करिकुलम है वो पुराना है, कंटेंट पुराना है, और
नहीं तो
जो
हम
नई
उसको
बात एक
नहीं
हाँ
नहीं, आपने एकदम सही कहा, तो हम उस करिकुलम और कंटेंट को इग्नोर कर दें ना। नहीं नहीं, देखिए ये करना पड़ेगा,
हाँ
इवन
इसमें कोई
असेसमेंट सिस्टम पुराना है।
नहीं, हम
हाँ
कह रहे सारा इग्नोर कर दीजिए, इंक्लूडिंग एनईपी 2020, ये सब इग्नोर कर दीजिए। और जो हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं और हम बात करेंगे और आपको कंक्लूजन की क्यों, और मैं अभी आपको और बताऊंगा इसमें फंडामेंटल रीजंस व्हाई थिंग्स आर चेंजिंग, बट आई जस्ट स्टार्टेड विद समथिंग टू गेट स्टार्टेड। एंड आई एम वेरी हैप्पी दैट वो हमारे साथ है, आपकी कंपनी वाले, बिकॉज फ्यूचर उसी का है।
हाँ
तो थोड़ा और आगे चर्चा होती रहे,
जी
तो आई एम
जी
गोइंग टू
जी
आई विल कन्विंस।
हाँ जी मैं डॉक्टर राणा से समझना चाहूंगी सर, अभी हम ये बोल रहे हैं कि जितने भी चेंजेस आ रहे हैं, जो भी चेंजेस आएंगे, जो भी प्रिडिक्शंस की जा रही हैं, उसमें कम से कम एक बात तय है कि जो मशीन्स और ह्यूमन बींग्स हैं, दे विल वर्क इन पार्टनरशिप। And if machines are programmed, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि if machines are programmed and they have the specific algorithm to run them, तो उनका जो algorithmic flow है, जो उसकी language है, जो programming language है, वो set है, that cannot be changed. While the human beings, they can go on and off track. So how the machines and human beings, they will be able to work in the partnership, and in that sense, what kind of skills to be inculcated in the learners today, in the students today, so that they can come up with the creative solution also, because that is also the need of the hour. कि क्रिएटिविटी भी चाहिए और मशीन्स के साथ में काम करने के लिए एल्गोरिथमिक अप्रोच भी चाहिए। लेकिन ऐसे थॉट्स आ रहे हैं कि अब हमें स्टूडेंट्स को एल्गोरिथमिक अप्रोच पढ़ाने की जरूरत नहीं है, वी हैव टू टीच देम क्रिएटिव प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग। और इसीलिए ये जो वर्ड्स हैं, मैथमेटिकल थिंकिंग, क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग जैसे वर्ड्स अभी पिच इन हो रहे हैं। तो डॉक्टर राणा, व्हाट इज योर ओपिनियन अबाउट दिस?
Thank you, Anita, for calling me over to this. Chinta and Chintan both are actually, it's a matter of concern as well as a matter for thinking also. I think all these words that we are saying, that there is a need for a change, there is always a need for a change. Whether it was 19th century, whether it was 20th century or 21st century, there is always a need, because everything is evolving. So our requirements change, right? We are more concerned now about teaching and learning about education as well as mathematics, because we are going through a critical kind of phase of pandemic, right? But let us take a positive aspect of pandemic, that it has made everybody aware of technology and its use in everywhere, more so in mathematics and education, of course, mathematics in particular. People will criticize that online teaching is not as good as face-to-face teaching, but I have data to say that students feel much better with online teaching, that they learn better with online teaching rather than offline teaching. Okay, so it's a matter of debate whether online teaching is good or bad, but let me come to the basic concern. Why are we teaching mathematics to the students? Why do we teach mathematics to our students? Or why do we send our children to schools for education at all? What is the need for education? Have we ever tried to answer that? Does any parent know that why there is a need for education, other than saying मेरा बेटा और बेटी पढ़ लिख जाएंगे और एक अच्छी जॉब में चले जाएंगे और अच्छा कमाएंगे और खुश रहेंगे, right? That is not the only aim of education. George Polya said there are two aims of education. This is a lower aim of education, what we are talking about, making them useful members of the society. They can earn, they can self-sustain themselves and so on. There are other aims of education, namely higher education. higher levels of learning. That is where your mind, right, logical, critical thinking, logical thinking, all these are to be developed, and that is a higher aim of education. And mathematics is one which can help you achieve both these aims. Let me just come. We always think about how do we revise the curriculum and how do we do this, how do we do that. Curriculum revision is, what are you going to do in curriculum? Basic masala जो है, आपको नमक भी चाहिए, मिर्च भी चाहिए, उसमें सब्जी भी चाहिए, खाने के लिए सब कुछ चाहिए. So those are going to be the essential contents of our curriculum anyway, right? You will add on sometimes, maybe, because the need for the hour is to look at applications of mathematics to other fields. Probably there are ways of integrating how to teach our younger students modern mathematics techniques or techniques which are going to be applied. For example, there are many universities abroad, unfortunately not in India, who are teaching what we call as data. They are trying to teach them data analysis at school level, at middle school level, and it can be taught. I have seen their curriculum a bit. So mathematics curriculum is something that keeps on changing, that keeps on evolving. Okay, and every 2 years, every 3 years, we have to evolve our curriculum anyway, because the needs of the society, of the country, they change. That is one thing, as far as curriculum is concerned. Now, who is going to take the curriculum to the required persons, namely the students? These are the teachers. We have to make our teachers very competent to teach what we design as our curriculum. Even the classical curriculum that we have designed, I'm sorry to say, our teachers have not been trained effectively. Take it to the classroom. Okay, it's more of skill-based learning that we have been passing on. There is no emphasis on conceptual understanding of it. So that is the second thing. Teacher training and teacher empowerment is a great thing, and technology can be of very good, very big boon to a teacher now. A teacher can use many technological tools to impart the education, at least mathematics education, in a better way. And the third is our assessment. How are we assessing our students? Again, as was said, value of pi is taken as 22/7. Till a few years back, I'm sorry, some of our textbooks said the value of pi is 22/7. Maybe still some textbooks say that. On one hand, we say pi is equal to 22/7, and somewhere we mention that pi is an irrational number in the same textbook. So there is a dichotomy, there is a contradiction in the textbook itself, right? And the teachers don't know. I'm not saying this because I just want to say it. I have interacted with probably about 1,000 teachers from Maharashtra state for a training project, and which were lasted for about 3 years. So if time is there, later on probably I will talk about that project, how we sort of try to improve quality of math education teacher training program. But the point is, why I'm trying to make is our books write as a pi as 22/7, and then later on we say it's not the right thing to say that, right? And we assess, for convenience sake, only algorithm part of it. Are we able to assess the conceptual part of understanding of a student by our exams? I don't think there is any exam in India, which is 10th level, 12th level, CBSE boards or all that, which understands, which tests the conceptual understanding of a student, whether he or she has understood. I'm not saying the whole of a paper should be, assessment should be on the conceptual understanding, but there has to be some weightage of conceptual understanding to be given. And that again, who will do that? Paper setters. Who are the paper setters? We are the paper setters. We teach, right? So I was seeing the guidelines for paper setter. There should be 2-mark questions, 3-mark questions with one answer only possible. Why can't we give an open-ended question in the exam? Right? because they're difficult to assess. You will say, well, there is a problem there, right? So that probably there, that is where continuing assessment or whatever name you want to give it comes in. Again, the responsibility will go back on teacher, whether the teacher is able to evaluate the um, conceptual understanding of a student via seminars, problem solving, whether it is by inquiry based learning or whatever it is. So there are, I think at every place we have to change our thing, and this change is kept continuous change. It cannot be we change it and then be happy about it. So I think I'll stop here so that others can say, and then probably I'll come back to the training program we had.
सर आपकी बात से एक तो छोटी सी बात, मतलब जो मैं सडनली मेरे माइंड में आई, आजकल एक बहुत फैशन हो गया, एक फैड है पाई डे सेलिब्रेट करने का, और वो पाई डे भी साल में 2 बार सेलिब्रेट करते हैं, 22/7 भी और 3/14 भी। तो ये जो चीजें हैं, ये इस तरह की जो चीजें हैं, क्या आपको क्या लगता है कि आर दे गोइंग टू क्रिएट इल्यूजन इन द स्टूडेंट्स अबाउट, और द मिसकंसेप्ट इन द स्टूडेंट्स, आर दे वर्थ
No, see,
celebrations?
I'm not afraid of misconceptions. See, sooner or later, if the child goes to higher education, he will understand that there was a misconception, and that is good. Because whenever there is a confusion, there is a discussion, and discussion leads to something meaningful. That is always there. But the point is, our teachers believe in something. See, when the teacher gets confused, then there is a problem. I don't mind student getting confused. The student has a chance to improve later on if he goes into higher learning. For a teacher, there is hardly any opportunity for professional development or something where he can improve his knowledge. So that is a problem I'm talking about.
Yes. So basically, like we all agree that the changes are required at 3 levels. One is we shall be able to identify that what mathematical skills are required to be inculcated in the students. Second is what mathematical content, and the third is the techniques which are to be used. Techniques are, or I would say pedagogy by the teachers. अभी सर आपने ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चंस की बात करी, असेसमेंट में तो हम वो बाद में पूछेंगे ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चन, अभी तो हम उनको टेक्स्ट बुक में ही प्लेस नहीं देते हैं, और क्लासरूम में भी वो स्पेस अपने बच्चों को नहीं देते हैं कि हमारे स्टूडेंट्स जो हैं वो खुल करके हमसे क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकें, उतना क्वेश्चन पूछने की गुंजाइश भी नहीं देते हैं. बट आई थिंक the teachers need to learn this, that if the child is giving any wrong answer or the answer which is not up to her expectation, तो उस आंसर को कैसे एक्सेप्ट करें और कैसे उसको इस तरह से मोल्ड करें कि स्टूडेंट्स खुद से समझ पाए कि उससे क्या लर्निंग हो रही है. मतलब रॉन्ग आंसर से भी तो लर्निंग हो सकती है अगर उसका एनालिसिस हो तो.
See, Anita, this is again comes to teacher training.
Yeah.
Our pre-service training of teachers, there is a plain vanilla where we teach them theories and theories and theories which are not applicable in the ground reality in the school level when they go teach, right? So again, B.Ed is some program where we teach something and evaluate something, whether that is going to be useful in the teaching or not, that is not a concern at all. And no opportunity for a teacher to improve. That is a very unfortunate thing. एक बार उसने B.Ed कर लिया और जॉब मिल गई, उसके बाद वो he is happy, everybody else is happy, right?
हाँ जी.
Can I say something, Anita ma'am?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone.
गुड इवनिंग शुचि, प्लीज आप पूछ सकते हैं.
मैं ये कह रही थी कि सर ने बहुत अच्छी बात बोली थी ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चन की. हम हर लेवल का क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछ पाते हैं, लेकिन क्लासरूम में टीचर्स इतना तो बहुत छोटे लेवल का, जैसे कि इंस्टेड ऑफ आस्किंग 5 + 7 what is 5 + 7, we can say give 2 numbers whose sum is 12. So बहुत सारे आंसर्स नहीं, पर कम से कम 3 या 4 आंसर्स तो होंगे. तो इसी टाइप के क्लास के हिसाब से, क्लास लेवल के हिसाब से थोड़े बहुत क्वेश्चंस अगर टीचर्स क्लासरूम में डिस्कस करें, तो धीरे धीरे ओपन एंडेड की तरफ भी बच्चे चलना शुरू हो जाएंगे, और शायद हम थोड़ा और आगे बढ़ पाए उसमें.
हाँ जी, यस शुचि, यू आर राइट, एब्सोल्युटली राइट. मैं थोड़ा सा मिस्टर निर्मल शाह की तरफ आना चाह रही हूँ. Mr. Nirmal, are you here? I think, Mr. Dwivedi, you have to mute yourself.
I think my video has been blocked, ma'am. So it says host has stopped it.
Okay, Rajni, please see to it. Okay. मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि जो अभी टीचिंग में चेंजेस आ रहे हैं या पेडागोजी में जो चेंजेस आ रहे हैं, 4 words are there which are now dominating the teaching, and one is automation, another is stimulation, then simulation, and then innovation. ये जो 4 words है, ये कहीं ना कहीं हमारी जो टीचिंग टेक्निक्स है उसको डिफाइन करते हैं. You are creating the apps, you are using artificial intelligence. What is your observation when the child is interacting in the classroom face to face with the teachers? What is the impact there, or what kind of impact you have noticed during this pandemic through the kind of app which you have created on the basis of the artificial intelligence, and why do you think that this kind of app should be created?
Okay. So first of all, let me tell you this, ma'am, ki I don't think artificial intelligence has anything to do with this part of learning. Okay. Artificial intelligence is a tool which we have used to do something within the app which makes some kind of process flow easier, or for us to be able to capture some data in a certain way or analyze that data in a certain way. What we have observed is that in the classroom, the behavior of the child is very different as compared to when the child is learning on his own or her own. तो अब ये होता है कि क्लासरूम में, स्पेशली इंडियन क्लासरूम्स में, जैसे all the esteemed people here have already said कि one is the type of teaching and the way the teachers are teaching today is one way interaction. टीचर ने बताया, बच्चे ने सुना, टीचर ने बताया, बच्चे ने सुना, बच्चे ने नोट किया. अब अगर बच्चा डाउट भी पूछता है तो इट इज ओनली विद इन दैट फ्रेमवर्क कि टीचर ने आज मुझे ये 2 चीजें बताई है तो मैं उसी का डाउट पूछ सकता हूँ, राइट. द सेकेंड थिंग इज दैट कि अगर बच्चा गलती करता है तो इवन फिक्सिंग दैट मिस्टेक इज विद इन दैट फ्रेमवर्क. सो देन व्हाट हैपेंस कि एक तो बच्चा गलती करने से डरने लगता है, एटलीस्ट वो अपनी गलती बताने से डरने लगता है क्लास में. सो दे फील एम्बैरेस्ड कि कोई और मेरा मजाक उड़ाएगा, या कभी टीचर ही बोल देती है तुम तो बुद्धू है, तुझे कुछ आता नहीं है, राइट. दैट्स वेरी कॉमन. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस ऑन द ऐप, स्पेशली इन द काइंड ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट दैट वी क्रिएट फॉर देम, इज दैट for them making mistakes is okay. We make it okay for them to make a mistake. We show them what is the mistake and how you should correct it. But at the same time, we do not say that you are stupid because you made a mistake. And I think that changes the whole mindset a lot, right? क्योंकि बच्चों को फिर जो ये डर होता है कि ये मैथमेटिक्स मैं तो हमेशा अगर गलती करूंगा तो मैं बुद्धू हूँ. एक्चुअली जब हमने काउंटिंग बनाया तो हमारा यही लॉजिक था कि पेरेंट्स ये सोचते हैं कि मेरे बच्चे को अगर मैथ्स आती है तो मेरा बच्चा स्मार्ट है, अगर मैथ्स नहीं आती है तो मेरा बच्चा स्मार्ट नहीं है, राइट. एंड वी सेड दैट मीन्स दैट अगर हम मैथ्स का कुछ बनाएंगे then the product will sell because all parents want their children to be smart with maths. But as we went on, we realized that why is this smart and not smart distinction coming? And that is coming because it is being created by that environment. कि अगर आपने जवाब गलत दिया तो आप स्मार्ट नहीं हो. अभी जवाब गलत देने से कोई बुद्धू तो नहीं बन जाता. इट्स जस्ट दैट दे डोंट नो समथिंग, राइट. दे आइदर डोंट हैव अ कॉन्सेप्चुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग or they've been taught something wrongly and nobody is willing to accept that part of it. So I think that change comes when we bring in this kind of technology here. And again, let me reiterate, it has got nothing to do with artificial intelligence. It is only the learning environment, right? This is an environment where they are free to make mistakes. Nobody is going to penalize them. Therefore, they are okay to make mistakes and they say, okay, galti ho gayi, ab mujhe samajh mein aa gaya. And that way they are able to move forward. So I think that change in the learning style is more important than whether you say artificial intelligence या आप बोलो कि mobile app है या computer पे है, कैसे है, right? Doesn't matter. As long as you are able to create that conducive learning environment for the child. And I think that is what EdTech is today bringing in for the children, right? And that is the distinction between the school and a personal learning environment.
But in this conducive learning environment, that's true that the child is free to make the mistakes and he can assess and reassess himself and see, always check his own understanding, his own learning. But where is the stimulation in this? Because it is important for child to learn anything, some kind of stimulation is also required when you give the challenging problems, when you give the challenging tasks. So how this is happening in using the artificial intelligence in the class, the teachers are able to trigger the thinking of the children by asking various types of questions, and even if they are addressing a class of 40, but still they are able to take care of the individual need of the child also, because if they know that the child has this much potential or this kind of thinking, then they trigger their thinking in that direction, or they try to mold them in a different manner, or in a way where they can lead to the answer.
Sure.
But what will happen here when the child is just interacting with the machine, and machine is not able to or the app is not able to give the answers? They might be requiring different kind of answers. Just I think मतलब मुझे लग रहा है कि बहुत you can understand, मैं भी ये loud thinking कर रही हूँ.
नहीं मैम, आपकी बात सही है कि app cannot replace the teacher, right? Whether you say it is driven by artificial intelligence or it is driven by any other technology, it cannot replace the teacher. Now the difference comes where कि teacher जो the way they stimulate is basically using anecdotal knowledge of the child. कि, you over the last few years or few months that they have interacted with the child, they have arrived at some conclusion कि ये बच्चा ऐसा है या ऐसे सोचता है या ऐसे नहीं सोचता है, whatever it is, and based on that they try to simulate. Now with artificial intelligence, what we are able to do is to capture that knowledge of the child's abilities and the child's learning style by way of capturing कि वो कैसे पढ़ रहा है. So for example, when we ask questions of the child and we say that, do you understand something? And then we give them options and say, did you understand this in this direction or that direction? There are 3-4 options, and how exactly are you understanding it? What we are able to do is we are able to then start categorizing the child's thinking in a certain direction. And based on that, then we are able to decide using that artificial intelligence, how should we stimulate the child's thinking, right? So that is where artificial intelligence comes into play, right? So basically we are trying to replace the teacher's intelligence with artificial intelligence. Now, what we cannot replace is the teacher's sensitivity, right? And that is also a very, very important aspect. And that's why we also believe that you cannot simply have the app and say that the child will learn entirely on her own or his own, right? It has to be blended. It has to be along with what is in the classroom. Where it can add value is that by capturing this data over a long period of time. So I can have the child's learning data not just for 1 week, but for 1 month, 1 year, 2 years. If you've been using the app for 5 years, I have 5 years worth of data. So I can even track how the child has improved or how the child's capabilities have gone down for that matter, right? And based on that, we are able to do 2 things. One is that we are able to give that direction to the child within the app as to what is the next learning content or what is the kind of simulation the child needs. At the same time, we are able to give that data back to the teacher as well. So idea should be where it is not that the app is standalone. The child is going home and doing something with the app, going to school and doing something in the school. It should be a 2-way interaction where we go back to the teacher and say that, look, this is what we have observed based on all the data, right? So now it is not merely based on what the child's friend is saying or what the teacher has seen for 1 hour of interaction in the classroom, but it is also validated by data, and that can help teacher do that simulation much better, right? So that's what I believe, that's the way the app should intervene.
So so that means you are saying that there are 2 benefits. One is the child could be a self-directed, self-motivated learner, and he will be getting this opportunity to assess and reassess himself, and he will be able to make certain judgments about himself and identify that what kind of inputs now he requires, and with those he can go to the teacher, and on the other side the teacher will also be getting insights that what kind of modification, what kind of adjustment she has to make in her teaching to cater to the needs of the children.
Absolutely.
So I'm coming back to Dr. M.M. Pant, because we are talking about the apps and artificial intelligence. So as Keith Devlin, he has coined this term mathematical thinking, and he coined this term for the creative problem solving. And he says that instead of procedural mathematics, creative problem solving approach is important, because with the help of this, and this could be possible to acquire this kind of mathematical thinking ability, is that if the child is in the process of exploration, trial and error, and reflective thinking, and for that he actually advocates the use of the gaming. He says that video games, they can give more stimulation to the child, because then the child will come across the problems which are open-ended, which are context influenced, and they have the opportunity to try and trial and error, and then finally they are able to solve the problem, which gives them the joy of solving the problem and enhances their self-esteem and confidence also. Sir, what do you say about this, that how much video gaming shall be the part of the teaching pedagogy, or how much the child should be able to give how much exposure the child should get of these kind of things?
Yeah, so you see, the point is very simple. There are two things. Our model of education is one driven by authority. There is somebody who has made the syllabus. You must learn this. You must know this. There is one correct answer. It is given at the back of the book, or the CBSE will give you 2 marks for it, and so on. And therefore, we stop thinking. It's very amazing. People who get very good marks in maths are no longer thinkers at all, because they have become followers. Now, I want to share with you a vision which is very different from what is being talked about, including, I'm amazed that even Shah Saab, who's talking about apps and AI, is kind of diminishing the importance of AI. I am going to share with you the vision that, as you said, it is going to be gaming and AI, which will be the transformative things. See, we have been indoctrinated to believe that without teacher, there can be no learning. If you want the new maths to be learned, you have to bypass the teacher. जब आपके हार्ट में प्रॉब्लम होती है, आप बाईपास सर्जरी करते हैं. हमें टीचर को बाईपास करना है, because we will never be able to create. See, I find this amazingly kind of impractical thing, that we will first train teachers who will be creative, innovative, and they will pass on the creative thing to this. We go straight to the learner. So that is a very important aspect to understand, that we have to go straight to the learner and use all the power of AI, all the value of gaming, and this thing to encourage them to be able to do it. I have one of my favorite stories about creative. See, first we present maths as if there is no creativity in maths. Now, one of my favorite stories is, and all people who have studied maths must have heard of this, is of Carl Gauss when he was in primary school. When he was in primary school, one day the teacher came and wrote on the board 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 100, and thought that now he can rest for a few minutes while the students are adding up. And students will add up 1 and 2 is 3, 3 and 3 is 6, 6 and 4 is 10, and so on. But what Gauss did was, he saw a pattern. He said 1 and 100 is 101, 2 and 99 is 101, 3 and 98 is 101. So he said 101 into 50, 50, 50 gave the answer immediately. And the teacher was aghast. See, maths is something, in fact, there's a very famous series of talks I can share with you. Is maths invented or discovered? Calculus was invented. So many things in maths are invented. Negative numbers are, in fact, there's a famous quotation, God gave the natural numbers, all the rest is the work of man. So negative numbers, imaginary complex numbers, purely, they were called imaginary for the beginning. Today you can't have them. Then you get into arrays of numbers, matrices and so on. So I think the whole idea of this curriculum, etc., has to be, and this first problem is we want to say maths for all. It just doesn't mean the same maths for all. We are trying to teach everybody the same skills at the same time. At 8 o'clock in the morning on that day, I will teach all of you Pythagoras theorem. No, their interest and level of readiness will be at different times. So you, like in a game or in a long-term marathon race, people will run at different paces. Let them come to that outlet. So what I'm saying is very simply, first, the future of maths education, firstly, you have to decide what content you want to teach, what principles you want to teach, and so on and so forth. And then you forget the teachers. Thinking that you'll have a, see, zamindari was abolished in India a long time, almost immediately after freedom. We abolished zamindari. We said land to the. Why should there be a teacher between a learner and something you want to learn? And if there is going to be a teacher between what I want to learn and what I need to learn, it will be impossible to do what we need to do in a finite amount of time. And this occurred to me sometime recently. I was giving a talk about new technologies. I was talking to them about artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, 3D printing, Internet of Things, AR, VR, all these kind of things. And then somebody in the audience asked, sir, ye sab syllabus mein kab aayega? And I said, you cannot wait for this to come to the syllabus and then be taught to you and so on. So if we're talking new things, we cannot have them wait till they come to the syllabus and we have a teacher who's trained and then there is, whether it is B.Ed, M.Ed or Madan Mohan Malviya scheme. Self-learning is the way to go. And self-learning aided with artificial intelligence and gaming. And there are already apps which are doing this. And I like to draw attention to everybody who hasn't seen it. Have you seen Duolingo as a language learning app? If you see Duolingo as a language learning app, you will realize what kind of a UX, UI, gaming, drill practice, everything is there. So now I'm saying treat mathematics as a language. Treat mathematics as a language, and for instead of trying to seek content, talk of them as levels. So now if you look at language, there is a subject taught in this thing, but typically if you want to take a language testing, you have to take either TOEFL or IELTS or something else. They talk about your level of English language, not whether you study Shakespeare or Browning or this or that. So what is my level in maths? I'm a beginner, I'm a middle, I'm advanced, I'm fluent, etc. And I actually advise people who are serious about it. In languages, for example, there is something called CEFR, Common European Frame of Reference. This was made because how good is my English, how good is my French, how good is my German, how good is my Italian, and so on. So they created 3 broad levels, A, B, C, and then they broke it further into A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. And for each of them, they have what are called can-do statements. So what is it that A1 can do? By implication, he can't do the things which A2 can do, B1, B2. So you say for maths, there are 6 levels of fluency. So A1, I can do this. A2, I can do more. B1, I can do this. B2, I can do a little more. C1 and C2. And once you have created that, then you apply your method. So today we are talking learning subject as a skill which will be done by a computer. No human will do it. Now, when you look at this, so now, in fact, one of the most successful methods of coaching in maths has been the Kumon method. And in the Kumon method, he doesn't care which class you are in. He's got some 27 levels from adding numbers horizontally, adding numbers vertically, right up to calculus, some 27 levels. And he first sees which level you are on. And then gives you drill and practice till you do mastery learning and move to the next level. Our problem is we move people to the next level before they're having done the earlier level. So imagine a child who has done everything he needed to class 5. But class 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, he is passing with 50% marks. Now, if you assume that 50% marks passing means he knows half of what he should know. So class 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1 upon 2 into 1 upon 2, he knows 1 upon 32 of what he should know. अब उसको आप आकाश इंस्टीट्यूट भेज दीजिए, पाताल इंस्टीट्यूट भेज दीजिए, बायजू उसके सर पे चढ़ा दीजिए, कैसे करेगा? He knows only 3% of what he should be knowing. So mastery learning, small chunks of learning is what is important. Let them take as much time as they want. So on the app, they can spend as much time as they want so that each sub-step is fully done, understood, mastered, tried again and again through various methods of gaming, etc., and move on. Because the importance is, and I'm saying this with some seriousness, there was an interview of one of these quantum computing companies called D-Wave. And the interviewer was asking the CEO of D-Wave, what is your message to school children as they prepare for a quantum future? He said, while at school, learn college algebra. While at school, because you have to learn a lot more. You cannot say, I will take, learn what was taught in this thing. And vertical acceleration is exactly this concept. He says, you're teaching him simple equation. You teach him simultaneous equation. Now, simultaneous equation he can do by hand. But n variables, let him understand there's a determinant matrix, etc. And you keep on doing that, eliminating so many times, and the computer will do it for you. So you don't have to say that I have to wait 3 more years before I learn how to solve. Similarly, you do a simple equation, polynomial equation, cubic, nth power polynomial, you can teach the same thing and say, this is how it is done, but the computer does it. So far, we said, whatever you have to do, you also do by hand. But the point tomorrow is you don't have to do it by hand. And one of the very important things that I like to give as an analogy is that this takes a lot of serious thinking by educators to accept it. Now, since times immemorial, how did we learn to cook? So there must have been a time when we ate only raw food. Then we discovered fire, and then we had fire, which was there to cook. For centuries, you could do cooking only when there was a source of fire. You can call it a source of heat. It could have been wood, it could have been coal, it could have been coke, it could have been gobar ki papdi, whatever. And it was then kerosene oil, janta cooker, right? Even with electricity, there was the heater with a filament, and that led to the cooking. How do we do the cooking in the microwave? There is no filament, no source of heat. We agitate the molecules inside. So it is the learner's mind which has to be agitated to learn maths, not the teacher in between giving heat so that the learner will learn. And similarly, you look at the induction cooker. So both of these are examples that you don't need a teacher. And we have a story from Eklavya to whatever you want, that you don't really need a teacher. What you need is guidance. Now, as we've said, if we use AI, and I will now give you the final interesting analogy. We are all familiar with computers. We have replaced the human computer. I just sent you a link of a book, When Computers Were Human, and so on. But how did this really happen? You know how it really happened? In the US Constitution, I think 1700 something, they said that the nation must hold a census every year, so that every 10 years, so that we know what is the population, and we will have representations according to the population and so on. They started around 1750. Every 10 years, they had a census. By the time it was 1880, the population was so large and the data was so much that it took them 8 years before the data was processed. Then they started using automation. There was a Hollerith punch card. Mr. Hollerith created something, and they were able to do all the pending thing within 1 year. This led to the formation of a company called IBM. And those of you who are old enough, remember that old computers used to have punch cards on which we put these things and so on. So the birth of computing happened because of the requirement of sensors that you have to do this calculation. The birth of AI in education is going to happen because we have said education for all. We have signed UNESCO SDG Goal 4. What is Goal 4? Quality education for all. It is no longer about saying that you will have a third-rate education. IITians will have a very good education in Bombay, Kanpur, Calcutta. No, you have to give good education to all, and also it talks about lifelong learning. It not talks only of 16 years of schooling. The only way you can implement SDG Goal 4 is to use AI for learning, automation for learning, AI-powered learning, apps for learning, and so on. And I will now finally give you the reason why AI will become superior. See, we are very diffident. We say, no, computer cannot replace teacher, etc. This was true in the earlier age of computing. With artificial intelligence, this has changed. Now, one of the most interesting stories, and I'll just tell you a few stories, when Gary Kasparov lost to IBM, he was totally dazed because previous year he had defeated IBM Blue. So computer versus humans was going on for a while. Previous year, Gary Kasparov had defeated IBM Blue. And next year, he lost. And he couldn't believe it. He actually thought that they have found a human chess player who's better than me, They have hidden him there and they are showing his moves as the computer moves. Only later did he accept that. Then, you know, in the game of Go, the computer defeated the human champion completely. Now, Google has a lot of things where the computer is writing better code and program than the human programmer. Now, why this is happening, and let me explain this, because lots of people still don't understand. They think of it as a traditional, this is right, a traditional computer could not have replaced a teacher. But why is this able to do? And I will give you an example, which you can all relate to. We have Dr. Rana, we have Dharam Prakash, we have me here. Let us say we are, and you, we are all good teachers. We are good teachers because we studied in a good place, we taught in good institutes, and we taught for 30 years, 40 years. So how many students did we teach? Whatever. But that AI has the data of thousands of teachers like us who have taught millions of students. And we also forget. See, what I learned in 1970s, I've forgotten in terms of experience of teaching, but they have all the data. So when we were talking about the learning bottlenecks of students and carrying them out, that AI has a lot more than anything. And that is why it is better than a human doctor. It will become better than a human lawyer, because it has, it's like several lifetimes of your work have gone into you. And they keep getting, because the AI system is not somebody is doing it. This is continuously feeding data from, so if there will be an AI system, all the data of all the schools, all the students, all the questions that they were asked is being processed, tagged, etc. And since all of you are professional people, so the difference, and this is very important to understand, something has changed. And this change is that we are now not talking of a traditional algorithm where you once laid down steps. You are talking of what is called a learning algorithm. The best definition of a learning algorithm is in a book by Thomas Mitchell on machine learning, where it is a learning algorithm for a given task T with performance measure P is such that the performance measure P improves with experience E. And what is the experience? Experience E is supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, and all these models go to make a very good model, which has become a better model of predicting whatever we want than human. Now, clearly, it lacks in the kind of creativity which Einstein had, or Newton had, or Lovegrover has, or whatever. That's a different issue. But for ordinary teachers, this will be able to do this. So I have said very often that just like there's a book when computers were human, somebody will write a book when teachers were human. Because, see, so people ask me, so what will happen to teachers? I said, there are two things. Those teachers who refuse to change will become irrelevant. But the teachers who will change will have a more important role. Our role is not to teach us calculating techniques. Our role is the cognitive development of the people. So we are actually engineers of the brain. I've said very often, the neuroscientist, neurologist and neuroscientist you see in the hospital is a wartime neuroscientist. We are peacetime neuroscientists. During peace times, we develop your brain to be ready for war when it is needed. And this is the part we have to do. So I said, teachers should realize that they will become cognitive development facilitators. Right from early childhood, we are seeing whether they are, and maths is a great tool for cognitive development. So when I count 1 to 10 and I count backwards 10 to 1, it is a cognitive faculty that I am getting developed. It does not matter whether the machine will count is a different issue, but my brain has learned various kind of patterns and doing that. And so math is a very critical part of the cognitive development. Why this has become even more important, and I will stop at that, is that cognitive development has a very, so from childhood, you know, the child in the first 2 years learns so much. What a fast pace, then it slows down and so on. But past 50, cognitive decline also happens. It will be our role to deal with cognitive decline as well. Not only nursery and KG, we will be dealing with cognitive decline, and all the important decision makers are in a stage of cognitive decline. So the
सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था आपसे कि ये आपकी बात से ये बिल्कुल साफ जाहिर हो रहा है कि एक एज आने वाली है जहां पर सेल्फ लर्निंग इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट.
यस,
तो ये इस पर जरा चर्चा करें कि सेल्फ लर्निंग हम
हाँ, तो
इंदर जी से भी रिक्वेस्ट है कि सेल्फ लर्निंग कैसे इनकलकेट की।
नहीं, मैं आपको बताऊं, बड़ा सिंपल है। इसका जवाब है नेसेसिटी। 2 साल से आप वायरस के बारे में डॉक्टरों से सुन रहे हैं। किसी के डॉक्टर के एमबीबीएस करिकुलम में वायरस था ही नहीं, ज्यादा से ज्यादा 1 लेक्चर था। मैंने एम्स का एमबीबीएस करिकुलम पूरा देखा, तो वो कहते हैं, पहले कहते हैं वो लोग नॉन मेडिकल, फिर प्री मेडिकल, फिर क्लिनिकल, और जब ये माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिज्म में आता है उसमें 1 लेक्चर आता है वायरस, जिसमें कहते हैं वायरस बहुत छोटा सा होता है। ये वायरस के क्लासिफिकेशन आप सुनते हैं आजकल, आरएनए वायरस, एमआरएनए, ये वो, ये डीएनए, आरएनए, ये बाल्टीमोर साहब ने करा है, उनको नोबेल प्राइज मिला। 7 तरह के वायरस उन्हें क्लासिफाई, सबने अपने से सीखा है। मैंने भी सीखा, मैं डॉक्टर नहीं हूं, मैंने भी वही सीखा, उनको भी वही सीखना है, बिकॉज वो उनके सिलेबस में था ही नहीं। So as we get to a changing world, there is no option but to learn by yourself, because things were not in the syllabus. See, in fact, as you know, many of us who are so
बच्चों को आदत कैसे डालें सर?
वो शुरू से उनको नहीं सीखने दीजिए। हमने बच्चों को, एक्चुअली बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, आपने कहा तो मैं आपको बताता हूँ। तो मैं जब करीब 50 साल का हुआ, तो मैं एक बार एक किसी मीटिंग में एम्स के डॉक्टरों के साथ था, some conference, something. So I asked them this question: why is it that as we grow old, we find it difficult to learn things, whereas when we are young, we learn a lot of things very fast? And I thought he will give me some biological reason कि आपका जो नर्वस सिस्टम है वो कमजोर, जैसे वो डायबिटीज में नहीं कहते हैं आपकी इंसुलिन कम हो जाती है, इंसुलिन खराब हो जाती है, एज रिलेटेड होता है। तो कहा नहीं, अब तो हम लोग सब जानते हैं न्यूरोप्लास्टिसिटी, न्यूरोजेनेसिस वगैरह। कहते नहीं, फर्क क्या है, बच्चा ऑल द वेकिंग आवर्स सीखने की कोशिश करता है, और जैसा उन्होंने कहा था, एक और ने गलतियां भी करता है, गलतियों से सीखता भी है, उसको डर नहीं लगता है कि गलती हो गई, ये हो गया। और हम लोग जो है, हम सीखते हैं फॉर बिटवीन, मैं कहता हूँ टी ब्रेक एंड लंच ब्रेक एंड कॉफी ब्रेक, उस बाकी टाइम हम सीखना, और हम नई चीज सीखना ही नहीं चाहते हैं। मैं तो आपको कितने एग्जाम्पल दे सकता हूँ कि जो लोग हैं वो सीखना चाहते ही नहीं है। पहली ट्रेजेडी उनकी क्या है, तुम हमको सिखाओगे। आई मीट लॉट ऑफ यंग पीपल हु गो एंड टॉक अबाउट, वो कहते तुम हमको सिखाओगे, हम 40 साल से पढ़ा रहे हैं, तुम्हारी उम्र 40 साल नहीं है, तुम हमें क्या सिखाओगे? सो वी रिफ्यूज टू लर्न। A child doesn't do that. Child is continuously learning, continuously mimicking, failing, falling, whatever. It doesn't give up. So the point is very simple. We are self-learners. We are born self-learners. मेरे पास एक बड़ा अच्छा वीडियो है एलिसन गॉपनिक का, वो छोटे बच्चों को कहती है, और उसका कंक्लूजन है, छोटे बच्चे का बिहेवियर देखो, इज एक्टिंग लाइक ए रिसर्च साइंटिस्ट। He thinks of a hypothesis, he does something, then either the hypothesis is confirmed or the hypothesis doesn't work, then he changes his hypothesis, then something else. You look at a child at play, and all that we have to do is to just do that. That's why I said gaming is very important and interesting, because it is a thing where you're trying all. हम लोगों को ये सिखाया गया है कि ओबे ऑर्डर, ये आर्मी से आया है, कमांड एंड कंट्रोल, एंड देयरफॉर वो हो जाता है। बट और ये सोसाइटी को काबू में रखने के लिए ठीक है, जिसको ऑर्डरली सोसाइटी कहते हैं। वो मैंने जब एक बार किसी लेडी से कहा था, वो कह रही थी हाँ आप सही कह रहे हैं, मेरी बच्ची सुबह उठते सवाल पूछने लगती है, जब स्कूल जाती है तो कुछ चैन आता है कि वो नहीं। सो द पॉइंट इज वेरी सिंपल, वी नीड टू, एंड देयर आर सो मेनी इंस्टेंसेस यू ऑल नो वेयर asking such inconvenient questions led to great breakthroughs. Great breakthroughs.
I would like to request Professor Dharam Prakash ji also to share some views on what artificial intelligence has to say, because I think I will reserve my comments after I hear Dharam Prakash ji.
नहीं, मुझे ये लगता है कि सेल्फ लर्निंग में, क्योंकि पैटर्न देखकर, डाटा देखकर, हमसे ज्यादा, ह्यूमन ब्रेन से भी ज्यादा उसके पास डाटा है। हम तो भूल जाते हैं जैसे एज बढ़ती जाती है, तो हमारे पास तो डाटा है भी, अगर बच्चों की गलतियों का, बच्चों के सीखने का, वो धीरे धीरे कम होता जाता है। तो मुझे लगता है कि अगर आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस उस पैटर्न को देखकर हमें मदद करती है, हमें सपोर्ट करती है, सीखने में सपोर्ट करती है, ना कि मेजर रोल प्ले करती, मेरा मानना यह है, तो बहुत बढ़िया हो जाएगा कि वो पैटर्न देख के हमें बताती है कि इस डायरेक्शन में अगर जाएं तो शायद ज्यादा बेहतर होगा, ऐसे करें तो शायद ज्यादा बेहतर होगा। तो अगर ये रोल आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस पे प्ले करती है, तो शायद और ज्यादा मशीन और ह्यूमन इंटरेक्शन बेटर हो सके.
Can I say something here? Because
Ji sir, please, Dr. Rana, yes.
I think what Dharam has said is very valid point, which in a way is the middle path. What Professor Pant was saying. You see, artificial intelligence should be used, must be used only to supplement what teacher needs. Okay, it cannot be artificial intelligence or whatever you want to call it. I call it technology. Technology is to support the teacher to do his or her job better. But you cannot say that the technology will, a learner will take technology and learn. After all, who will develop that technology? That technology, artificial intelligence, is not going to be bought from the store. That has to be, Google is developed by human beings. Okay, Infosys is working with human beings to develop something. Artificial is a data mining is being done by human beings. And who are those human beings? Who trained those human beings? Will the self-learners? No, they were taught by some teachers some time point how to learn. So we are forgetting that a computer is not created by a computer. A computer is created by a human being. So technology is not created by technology itself. A human being creates technology with the help of technology. That is very important. Pentium 4 was created with the help of Pentium 3 and electrical engineers, computer scientists, and so on. So we need creators, okay, who are trained to learn, right? They were not learning of themselves. From where? From where they will learn. So technology is a must, should be there, but it should be helping the teachers to do the job better. As Dharam Prakash ji has said, for example, if there is an app which says that if you bring it to the class, I give you a homework, on that app you do the job, and I will see where are you getting stuck, right? That is called the diagnostic testing of teachers, students learning. Right? If there are apps for diagnostic testing, that will be good for the teacher. Teacher knows where students are getting stuck, where I have to improve myself, right, in teaching. But for example, if you hope, right, that the app developed by my friend who talked in the beginning, I'm forgetting the name, that was done by whom? Was that done by a computer? That was done by a human being. Programming was done by a human being who knew what is to be done, how is to be done, what is the required things. So let us not underestimate the role of teaching in learning. But at the same time is going to come when we need technology to assist. And it is a big boon that we have got a big boon now, which way teacher can choose the technological part of it for his input, for his doing his job better. Okay. After all, you said child learns by itself. Child does not learn by itself. He just copies. He sees father doing something, he copies that. Right? If he doesn't know something, say, Papa, ye kaise karte hai? He asks the question. There is a facilitator. There is a facilitator at home who tells the child what is to learn, how to learn. Okay. A child normally does not learn cycling by himself. Right? Either a friend will teach, or somebody else will teach, or his father will teach, or somebody else will teach. Right?
Or at least support.
Yeah, support is there.
Yeah.
See, a time has come when teacher has to become a facilitator of learning with the help of technology. That is what I want to say.
Yeah. So I want to clarify. I want to clarify that. This is exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying the role of the educator is to develop such educational AI which will help carrying. So instead of doing that repeatedly, he will be able to create a system which will do that. So who will teach the educator?
Who will teach the educator?
See, the educators who are already.
Sir, that is why I think a new word has been used nowadays, that they say that it should be guided reinvention. So
नहीं,
the
नहीं,
child
who's
should be
right?
able to invent under
I
the
think-
guidance of the
अच्छा,
teacher.
मैं सिर्फ एक
Or
चीज कहना
somebody,
चाहता हूँ. I think
somebody has to be there. Whether
Somebody
you
should
want
be there.
to call them a father or a mother or a school teacher or a school principal or a friend, anybody.
ठीक है, देखिए
Somebody
ऐसा
has
है.
right. Somebody has.
The issue is very simple. I would request you to experience some of these learning apps and see what their power is, what their limitation is. I
Yes, sir,
don't sell any app. I'm promoting.
I've seen many apps. Okay, I'm
Okay,
on the
sir.
lookout all the time for apps, teacher training. So I'm looking at it.
Dr.
तो
Rana,
आप
Dr. Rana, I'm sorry to intervene because we
Correct.
are going towards
टाइम
the
बहुत
end
हो
of the
गया है.
program.
हाँ, correct. ये चलता
Yes.
रहेगा.
So,
Yeah.
हाँ जी, बस one last question I just want to ask to Dr. Rana that
Or Nirmal has to say something about it.
And he has to take all these answers and start building his product.
Absolutely. So, and I totally agree with Dr. Rana and Dr. Dharm Prakash, right? Technology can become a great enabler. So, jahan pe teacher is spending, let's say, 1 hour every day with the child, teacher might have to spend only 1 hour every week, maybe. But without the teacher, that enablement will not happen. Because more than anything else, I think that human connect is extremely important for human development. Right? It's as simple as that. And uske baad fir technology can come in, AI can come in, they can do all the analysis and show the direction and all of that. But ultimately, there has to be that human push and that human connect, which is extremely important, especially for the child to develop, right? And without that, any amount of technology you can bring in, any amount of technological intervention you can bring in, the child's development will always be limited. So I think that's my parting thought about where the technology and teacher, the human teacher, plays a role.
Yes.
सर एक रिक्वेस्ट है डॉक्टर पंत और डॉक्टर राणा से, जो लिंक्स हैं वो अनीता जी को भेज दें. तो जो
भेज दिया मैंने उनको, कुछ भेज दिया
ऑलरेडी.
तो सब पार्टिसिपेंट्स को अनीता जी
वो उनका काम है.
हाँ,
वो उनका काम है. मैं अनीता जी को भेज दूंगा. और मैंने एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग उनको भेजा है, जो एक्चुअली ये कंपनी चलाने वाले बड़े खुश होने चाहिए. थॉमस फ्रे ने कहा है द लार्जेस्ट कंपनी ऑन द इंटरनेट विल बी एन एजुकेशन कंपनी whose name we have not heard of yet. So
now they will hear, hopefully.
Sir, one last question to Dr. Rana. I just want to understand that what do you think, how much importance should be given to the teaching of history of mathematics in the classroom?
I have a view about this, namely, every student should at least once go through some aspect of the history of the topic that you are studying. Okay. How much time you want to spend? The question will come, how much curriculum wants to include it, how much you want to go assess and all such things. Because eventually it comes to हमारे पीरियड खत्म हो जाएंगे, हिस्ट्री पढ़ाएंगे तो हम बाकी कोर्स कब खत्म करेंगे, वो तो एग्जाम में आने वाला नहीं है, वो सब होता है, right? But it's a very essential thing. I would say that a teacher should point out, for example, the real numbers were not done over one month, 1 year, 2 years. It took 2000 years to develop real numbers. And you ask a student, even a BSc student, what is a real number? वो 1 minute में बोलेगा, it's a rational and irrational. He doesn't know what is rational, what is irrational, right? So it took 2000 years. Mathematicians struggled to define. So that struggle of a mathematician, of inventor, to go through this is very important. That puts the subject and the topic in perspective. So I think it's very important that history has a very important role, but at least something can be told and some links can be shared by the teacher that please go and read, because nowadays Google Chacha is great help. If I say who invented fractions, it will immediately give me 500 things, and I can download it and read it.
Yeah.
Right?
So I want to add to what Dr. Rana has said. And this is what you see, more than history, it is the biographies of mathematicians. Because mathematics and science and everything is done by humans. So if we know who are the humans who did it and what kind of things they had, that is very important. In fact, we should do a lot more of it. I remember when I was young, I grew up reading Men of Mathematics by E.T. Bell. And I still remember many of those things. For example, Newton there was asked that, what do you think of yourself? The world thinks you are so great. They wrote a poem, Nature and Nature's Law, Day and Night. God said, let Newton be, and there was light. But the point was that he was asked, what do you think of your life? And he said, I do not know what I may appear to the world. But to myself, I am like a child on the seashore, looking now for a smoother pebble or a prettier shell, while the whole ocean of truth lay undiscovered before me. That's the approach people should have towards maths. Not that this is a very scoring subject to get to IIT-JEE. It should be about discovering. Yeah.
Professor Pant, I fully agree that life sketches, biographies of great scientists and mathematicians should also be brought to the notice of students. But the point is, every year we have Mathematics Day where everybody talks about Ramanujam and talks about his biography, and I don't know how many times it has been repeated.
Yes.
But who has learned from that biography?
See, exactly. So the point is, it is general exposure.
Anita, somebody raised a hand. Somebody raised a hand for a question.
Somebody raised. I cannot see.
I saw the hand, and then
I saw one hand, but
We'll continue because I need to leave. I had marked about an hour for this, and it has exceeded. So I will leave, but we will continue our communication through WhatsApp and other methods.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And I hope that we will be able to interact again on this platform.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Please share the video. That video, what sir share it was.
So, Dr. Anna, shall I take the question from Sanjay Tahiliani? He wanted to say something.
Yeah, please.
Sanjay.
I don't know. The question was for whom? He raised a hand, so I thought he wants to ask somebody something.
Sanjay, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good evening, Professor Anna.
Oh, okay. Good evening.
Sir, I am Dr. Sanjay Tahiliani. I am lecturer of mathematics at senior secondary school. Sir, how artificial intelligence can be helpful to us school students for classes 11th and 12th?
You see, now here is a question. What is artificial intelligence? You see, it is a big umbrella.
Okay.
Okay. For example, if you say artificial intelligence is an app which will help, then I can give you one example of an app which will help. I think there are now at least 3 available. One is called GeoGebra. Have you heard about the word GeoGebra?
Yes, sir. I usually practice and with the students. Same. GeoGebra.
So GeoGebra is.
Yes.
So both are they both fall under the category of artificial intelligence. So you're using it.
Okay. Right, sir.
If you're using internet, then also you're using you call it ICT, you call it technology, you call it artificial intelligence, right? If it is put in the form of something that can be downloaded on a mobile and then offline you can use it, then probably it is called an app. I don't know, Nirmal will be able to say more about this nomenclature of these things. So, for example, almost every company now has an app, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what is an app?
Okay.
That is a way of using the same thing on a device, okay? Whether it is a laptop, whether it is a mobile, whether it is online, whether it is offline, and so on. Okay?
Right, sir. Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You want to say something?
I was just adding to it that everything from playing games all the way to learning uses artificial intelligence in some way or the other. Right? So, how it is useful? The answer is that it is whichever way you want to use it, right, and it will work.
Okay.
You see, this is my favorite quote. See, technology is a knife. It's a very sharp knife, and it is sharp on both sides. Normally, a knife is sharp only on one side, but this is a knife which is sharp on both sides. So it depends on how you use that knife. Whether you use it to cut vegetables, peel vegetables, or you can use it to kill somebody, right? So technology can kill your independent thinking also. Mind it, technology, apps can kill your independent thinking also, as far as education is concerned. But it can enhance in a great way if used properly. But there you need a mediator, there you need a facilitator who will say, this is a better way of using it. Yeah.
Over to you, Anita ji.
Anji sir, thank you so much for everyone to join us. Thanks to Dr. Pant, Dr. Rana, Nirmal, and Dr. Dharam Prakash ji. He's always triggering the new kind of thinking in us, and he always motivates us to think about the new things and come up with the new concepts. So ये discussion जो भी start हुआ है उसको initiate करने का सारा credit वैसे सर को जाता है because he triggered this thinking. And I thank all the teachers who have joined today. And I think this discussion was very interesting. My questions might be very, very vague. I thought since we are doing loud thinking here, so I chose to ask the questions which may look very vague in nature. कुछ हमारे पास prepared set of questions थे, लेकिन हमने उससे deviate करके कुछ उल्टा सीधा पूछा. So I don't know, but I think we all have learned.
Can I just intervene for 1 minute?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have put a website in the link. It's called Math Clinic. Where every week we are having lectures on various topics in math education, mathematics, and other things. So please visit that site. And if you find something interesting coming up, which you would like to participate, this is free. There is no fees for anything, right? Every Saturday, 5 to 6, normally we have these lectures. So tomorrow there is a lecture called Illustrations Using Excel. So how Excel can be used to illustrate various concepts. So if you like to join, please join. And keep visiting that site because every week we'll be announcing those lectures.
Okay, sir. We will take due care and we will not keep any discussion here on Saturdays from 5 to 6. So
Thank
we will
you. Nice of you. Nice of you.
Thank you so much, sir. So once again, I thank everyone to join us. Thank you.
One more thing I would like to say, sorry, I joined a little late, but this is one discussion I get carried away every time Professor Pant speaks. I feel that is only the right way. Call it fortunate, unfortunate, but yes, what he speaks has a lot of relevance to it. But knowing that emotional touch is also needed. हम कहीं ना कहीं उनको छोड़ नहीं सकते. Facilitator तो हमें रहना ही पड़ेगा.
We all agree. We all agree.
We have to reinvent our role.
Yes, we have to reinvent our roles. Absolutely.
See, moreover,
can I say something? Anita ma'am, can I say something?
वीना जी बोलिए वीना जी बोलिए.
मैम मैंने चैट में भी लिखा था जैसे कि अगर टीचर की एब्सेंस में अगर बच्चा नॉलेज गेन करता है तो कहीं ना कहीं उसकी सोशल डेवलपमेंट और इमोशनल, उसके लिए मैं एक एग्जांपल देना चाहूंगी माइथोलॉजी से. लाइक राम और रावण के बीच में नॉलेज दोनों को थी, रावण को भी बहुत थी, बट इन एब्सेंस ऑफ दैट टीचर और वो कनेक्शन और सोशल इमोशनल बैलेंस, वो रॉन्ग साइड पे नॉलेज थी. और मतलब दैट वे वी कैन कनेक्ट कि टीचर का गाइडेड नॉलेज होना बहुत जरूरी है. टीचर मतलब उसका टीचर का रोल बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है.
Yes, so classes are like labs where the students are able to reinvent certain things, some concepts in the guidance of the teachers. So with this, I thank everybody, and we will be meeting now again on Monday evening 5 to 6. Thank you so much for everyone to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.